Welcome to the Love How Deep podcast with Brian and Heather Mayer. Our purpose is to equip married couples like you with resources that rely on the transformative power of God's Word to strengthen your relationship.
Well, welcome back, everyone. It's so good to have you here. We are super excited to be bringing you another episode. And I think, Heather, you are excited about something that's going on, right?
Yeah, so it snowed today. And I think that might make maybe 95% of teachers happy for maybe a 2-hour delay or a snow day.
Right.
I think we earn those things throughout the school year. So we'll see. I don't have any word yet on whether or not anything like that's happening, but I did love seeing the snowfall today.
Right.
It was beautiful.
I know it was. And I think we've been here, 15 years in Virginia?
Yeah.
And the first, 10 years that we were here, we would get decent snows and It was pretty nice. Occasionally it was a bad one.
Yeah.
And then the last 5 years, it's like we don't get anything.
Nothing.
And so you're overdue. You deserve some
overdue.
snow. You deserve a snow day here and there. Maybe a snow week. Would you like a whole week off? Would that be too much?
That might be too much. I might get bored.
All right. Well,
but it was awesome because, we had some good chili and something to warm us up on the inside as it was cold outside.
That's right. So this time, I would say, has definitely helped us connect more when it snows outside. But sometimes that doesn't happen in marriage, right? Sometimes we can even drift a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And so then that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about a little bit of the drift that happens and something that you can do to help with that.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about in the last episode, there are things that can, like outside stressors that can get in the way and bring about, I guess, disconnection in your marriage to where you're not talking as much, you're not spending as much time together. It could be health issues, or maybe, life just feels a little bit stale for you. Maybe conflict resolution has become increasingly difficult. Whatever it is, we tend to drift at different times in our relationship. It's very normal because we're human. But, I guess, what am I trying to say? I guess, there are ways to prevent it or to even come back together as a couple to, reprioritize your spouse in your marriage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know you are. I know in my first marriage, we drifted. I would say that was probably the big problem with why it didn't work out, is there was this drift, and it was really revolving around having kids. I mean, you have a couple of kids and you've got all these things you've got to take care of and do, and sometimes you start to lose sight of each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened there. And
yeah, I think that's normal, that it can happen to anyone, and it's not like you set out for it to, but it does, and you just realize before you know it, like, you're very distant from your spouse. And so, the thing that we're going to talk about today is attending a marriage conference, because that is like getting a shot in the arm that's going to make you healthy again, maybe not overnight, but at least going to marriage conferences can give you so many benefits. It can help you get your priorities in line again. It's setting aside that time that you need for each other to invest in yourself, in each other, in your marriage. And, really, Brian, when we've gone to marriage conferences, it isn't because there was a drift. It was really just because we just wanted to go. We wanted to hear things that we, deep down know, but to hear them all over again, sometimes it's like, oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Talk about that some more. That's a really important topic or issue. And like, it made us feel that much more connected. And so maybe you're listening and you don't feel far away from your spouse. And you're like, oh, this one's not for me. Hey, don't turn this off. We want you to keep listening, because that's like getting a vaccine that can help you. People get flu vaccines so they don't get the flu. So go get a marriage vaccine so that you don't develop drifts and rifts in your marriage. So just want to put that out there, that this is not just for people that are struggling. It's really for anyone. It doesn't matter if you've been married 6 months or 60 years. These weekends or days spent at a conference learning and gleaning information just can do nothing but
Mhm.
help
Yeah.
your marriage become stronger.
Right. I would agree completely. And I still remember the one that we did last year. The thoughts and the memories of it pop up on me occasionally. And it's always a good, positive memory of what we did together. And it was not only the time that we spent in the conference, but it was like the lunches and the dinners and just the talks outside of the conference were super powerful for
Yeah, it really
me.
was.
Yeah. And so, uh, just like Heather was saying, I mean, it's really all about investing in your marriage. And when you go to a conference, there's two big things that really are happening for you as you're spending time together at a conference. Number one is you're getting great content. You're learning all sorts of new things about relationships. Maybe the facilitator might teach you about some blind spots that you have in your own life and that we all have them and we all need to have more awareness of those types of things. I know one thing that I've loved, it was actually in a conference that we did in Florida called the Breakthrough Weekend, where we learned about forgiveness and how to forgive more effectively. And that was super powerful. And then,
That was very powerful for me.
yeah,
I learned that when I could pray for that person who had hurt me down to my core, and I could pray for that person, I knew at that point I had truly forgiven.
hmm,
And that's where I
yeah,
learned that. It was
yeah,
so powerful.
yeah, for sure. And, even surface level things, sometimes like communicating better and dealing with conflict resolution and all the ins and outs and the differences that men and women have when it comes to sex and intimacy. Those are all great things to learn. Uh, and so, again, the content, really important. There's another thing, though, that I think is even more important. I've kind of been alluding to it as I've been talking, but that's what I call the process. And that's where you're simply saying, you know what, let's do this together. Let's do this thing together. I'm not going to get so hung up on what do I need to learn? What do I need to know? Those things are important. But I think more importantly is that I'm choosing to do this with you.
Right.
And that's really what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the process. So no matter what we learn, no matter what comes out of this, I'm super excited. I've said super excited about 5 times today. I'll stop that. But that, this is really important and I can't wait to do this with you. I can't wait to spend this time with you. I can't wait to see what comes out of this. And I think it really sends a message to your spouse. I hope it sent a message to you when we did the Weekend to Remember last year that, wow, he sees me as important.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and I felt the same with you
Yeah.
when you said you wanted to do this with me.
Oh,
I
yeah.
said, wow, this makes me feel really important and really known and loved and cared for.
Yeah, it really does. It's just
Yeah.
that little act of deciding that you're going to prioritize your marriage that speaks so loudly to your spouse.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
What else? What else is a benefit of attending a marriage conference?
Yeah, I think just going deeper with each other.
Mm.
Because if you have children at home, they're pulling you in 10 different directions, and between homework and after school activities and things that the children are involved in, that becomes your world. And those that gets in between you and your spouse spending time with each other and going deep together and having a deeper intimacy with each other. And then you might just be too stressed out. And so, um, it might not even be children. It could just be extended family. It could be friends. It could be your jobs are keeping you, kind of pulled apart unintentionally, but it happens. And so to marriage conference, it forces you both in a good way to set all of those other things aside and just focus on each other. So like the one that we did, it was out of town. So we had nothing but time on our hands with just each other, and we didn't go with any other friends. It was just us. And so all of our free time was spent with each other, going deeper, talking about everything that we had learned that day, to some activities that they gave us to do on our break times, and just sitting side by side in the conference and like nudging each other in a good way, not like a hey, listen up, did you hear that, but really in a good way of like, yeah, that's us right there, or remember when kind of a thing. And so it really gives you that extra time to focus on each other and to develop a deeper, stronger intimacy with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I just now thought of, remember when we were kids and we had televisions with good old rabbit ear
Oh,
antennas?
yeah.
Well, a lot of times the TV would be fuzzy. It wasn't really coming in correctly. So
Yeah.
typically we as the kids, we were the remote controls,
Yes, we
when we
were.
were growing up. So we had to go, fix the antenna. And the point I'm trying to make here is that sometimes, just like the television, our relationship gets fuzzy. We're not really in tune with each other.
Right.
And then when we kind of do that little course correct with the antenna and move it in a little bit of a different direction, all of a sudden everything is crystal clear now.
That's a good analogy.
And yeah.
I like that.
All right. I just now thought of it. I don't know. And then I wanted to say one other thing too about the going deeper part. I remember at our conference that we went to last year at lunchtime, we went back to our hotel because we could just walk to it.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a real deep conversation. I don't even remember exactly what it was, but I feel like I said some things maybe that I had never said before, and they were good. They were all good. They were just pretty deep and kind of stirred up some emotions in me. I remember I think I started to.
I think we were both crying,
Yeah.
and it was just so emotional.
Yeah.
It was so
Right.
intense.
But it was in a good way. At least
Yes.
it was for me.
Yeah.
I think it was for you as well.
It was, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Another benefit of attending a marriage conference, really, I would say, happens before you go to the conference, and that's all about actually just making this decision to go to the conference. It's like setting a goal. And we oftentimes we think about, well, I want to get healthier. I want to go to the gym more, or I want to go on more walks, or I want us to, I don't know, watch our favorite show once a week. But attending a marriage conference, that's like setting a goal.
Yeah.
And the thing I love about goals is it gives you something to look forward to.
Right.
And so I'm pretty sure, I don't remember this exactly, but I think when we set the marriage conference up to go to, I'm sure we talked about it. Like, oh, we've got 3 more weeks until we go away.
We did.
And yeah,
We
we're like
may
little
have
kids,
had a countdown going or something
Yeah.
of how many days until we went.
Right.
I don't know. We were just excited to do
Yeah,
that.
it was. It was exciting. I mean, I just couldn't wait. I looked forward to it. And,
Yeah.
so yeah, setting goals is very important. And I think
It is.
attending a marriage conference is a pretty awesome goal that you can have as a married couple.
Yeah.
What else we got? Any other benefits of attending a marriage conference?
Yeah, I think another one is just improving communication. So that can always be improved. I think no matter how good your marriage is, you can always improve on your communication skills. I mean, Brian and I think that you would agree that we continue to learn different and better ways to communicate with each other. And, maybe the conference that you go to doesn't directly focus on communication skills. However, there's going to be so much that you're hearing that maybe you finally get the nerve to speak up to your spouse and say, hey, this has been on my mind. Can we talk about it? Because sometimes we hold on to those things and we kind of stuff them down. Maybe we're a little afraid to approach that subject or something. But, maybe in a conference type setting, you're like, you know what? I feel like maybe this is a safe space to do that. Something that I heard today makes me feel like, yes, we need to bring this up and discuss it as a couple. So I think your communication skills can get stronger in that way. The one that we went to, they gave us cards and envelopes, I guess, that said, when you go on a date night tonight for dinner, take this envelope with you and open it up and answer the questions that are in there. So having things like that, it's obviously going to force you to, in a good way, to communicate with each other, learning more about each other, and talking about the easy stuff all the way to the hard stuff. So, yeah, I think attending a conference is absolutely going to help your communication skills. So,
Yep, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And again, sometimes it's happens from you getting a tool or a nugget from the facilitator on how to communicate better, and sometimes it is. I like to think that it happens even more strongly when you are spending time together just communicating, and it just happens
Right.
organically.
Mm-hmm.
Another benefit of attending a marriage conference, and this is a big one, I would say connecting with other couples. So if you go to a marriage conference, you know, um, while you're on a break, I obviously want the two of you to be able to talk to just each other and kind of debrief, so to speak, about what's going on. But while you're in the conference, if you have a few minutes here and there, get to know the people around you if you can. And maybe there's a struggle. Again, I know it's going to be hard. You're not going to want to completely like lay your life out on the table when you've just met another couple. But who knows? Maybe you might mention, our number one struggle is parenting difficulties or parenting differences, and it's pretty awesome when you meet another couple and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we do too," and
it's good to know that you're not alone, and just the fact that you could be at a conference with 300 other couples right there should let you know you're not alone, that you might all have different struggles, but everyone has a struggle, somehow, some way in their marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've always said that vulnerability begats vulnerability. And what I mean by that is if you're the one that kind of takes a little bit of a step out there with another couple and kind of explains something that you deal with, that you struggle with, again, the tendency is that the people around you will tend to want to talk. I mean, it may not be all the time. You may run into a couple or a person that is very quiet and doesn't really want to share, but I think for the most part, people will once they know that you're going through some stuff too. So connecting with other couples, and if you do something locally, if the conference is where you live, then there's a better chance that actually you might be able to connect with this couple and begin a relationship with them outside of the conference.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, I know
Just
when you
making new
travel,
friends,
yeah, right. When you travel and you go a distance, that may not be as much the case. But although I don't want to dismiss that because of the way the internet and social media and all that are now, you can stay connected with just about anybody anywhere. So,
but I will say there is one caveat. When they say, okay, we're going to take a break for dinner, go take your spouse out on a date, don't go with all of your friends.
Yeah, I was trying to allude to that earlier.
That kind of defeats the purpose of just pouring into each other's lives.
Yeah.
So, you just want to kind of watch that. Maybe your friends say to you, hey, let's all go out to dinner together. It's okay for you to look at them and say, no, the speakers at the conference said we're supposed to go out on a date on our own so we can go to the same restaurant, but we've got our own table. Go work on you. We work on us.
That's right. Yeah. So don't forget about that too.
Yeah.
Just you can be a little selfish and say this is the time for the most part for just the two of us. It's very important. So now that we've talked about the benefits of a marriage conference, wanted to talk a little bit about what you should look for in a marriage conference. So there's some things we should think about as we're getting ready to select a marriage conference.
Right. And I remember, when you and I were looking for a conference to attend, we just Googled Christian marriage conferences in our area. And I mean, there are so many. There are so many to go to that are available, just through a Google search. But there's some things that you want to look for. I would say number one, that it's Christian focused, because you want it to be biblically based, and there's nothing more powerful, in our opinion, than focusing on what God's word says about your marriage and about communication and about parenting skills and all of those things. What does the Bible say? Because that's the foundation of a great relationship. So you definitely want to make sure that you find one that is a Christian focused conference, whether it's a one-day event or a weekend event. That would just really, I guess, be up to you. And what you can do as a family, if you've got children and you need sitters or, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just kind of like a little sidebar there, but again, just a biblically based conference is really what you want to look for, number one.
Yep. Can I say something about that? I did want to let everyone know, this doesn't mean that we're saying don't go to one that's not. I mean, certainly our kind of bias is, go to one that is Christian based, biblically based. But if you want to attend one that's not, you're still going to get a lot of great information. I mean, no doubt about it. But Heather and I do believe that all of that stuff, again, if we don't have the love of Christ within us and a knowledge of kind of what he desires for us and having that unity, I think, with each other and with even with the other couples in the room, just knowing that, we all are of one accord, so to speak. That's extremely important. But
Right.
I am trained in like Gottman method and emotionally focused therapy. There are marriage conferences that center around those two things. Lots of awesome information that you will learn. You'll get some great tools and tips and strategies and techniques. So, not saying you necessarily shouldn't go to one of those, but again, make your focus as much as you can to go to one that is based upon God's word. So anyway, I just wanted to jump in there.
Yeah, I agree. Another thing that you want to look for is find out who the facilitators are and what they're, if there's a little bio about them. Do they have experience in working with couples, working with marriages, whether it's through mentoring or counseling or group work? What is it that sets them apart to be able to lead in a conference? So, do that little bit of research and find out what the facilitator's background is and what that's like. And then the couples experience time is the final part. I want to say something that you should look for, because you will sit and you will listen and listen and listen and be fire hosed with information from the speakers. And it is going to be so good. It can be very overwhelming too, because it is so much information and it's all so important. That, once you leave the conference, you've got to sort of sift through it all and figure out like, okay, what spoke to me? What can I do here? But what you want to look for is maybe time during that conference for you and your spouse to connect through different activities that drive home the points that you are learning. So, are there some breaks in there in the middle of a teaching session where they say, okay, turn to your spouse and talk about this and talk about that, or maybe some self-reflection within your workbook or something like that. Just something that you can do together that will help you help draw you closer together and help you just take it to that next level of depth in your marriage.
Yeah, those are good. So those are three things that you should look for in a marriage conference. And if you can look for those three things, I think you'll be well on your way. There may be some other things that you think about that are important to you, and certainly don't dismiss those things. I was just going to say, back on facilitators with experience, I mean, I've said this a couple times recently to people that if you ask us, have you ever dealt with such and such an issue with a couple, like an affair or arguments or betrayals financially, on and on and on? You and I would say, yes, we have. So we've pretty much seen it all in our different ways in working with couples, whether it be where the mentoring that we do together or the counseling that I do in my private practice or the groups that we've run and worked with couples. So important for you to find leaders of marriage conferences that know a thing or two about couples and what they go through.
Absolutely.
And wow, speaking of that, you and I are facilitating a conference, a marriage conference that we are really excited about.
Yes.
And it's called the Love How Deep Marriage Experience. And again, the reason that it's called the experience is just what Heather talked about a minute ago, that it's important to have experience time as a couple, so you can really connect a lot more deeply with each other. And so, I don't know, what are some of the things in the experience portion that we do with couples?
There is foot washing, and which kind of drives home that point of being a humble husband or wife, following in those footsteps of Jesus. The intimacy of taking communion together, anointing each other with oil. When you're praying for healing of your spouse. Those are some of the kind of the bigger experiences that we've incorporated into this conference.
Yeah, that's good. Another thing we do, we love to do this thing called the mirror meditation, where you as an individual will look into a mirror for a few minutes, and it's pretty powerful. And one of the things that came out of it for me was I just started to look at myself. I started to laugh because I was realizing I was taking myself too seriously. I was, kind of I don't know, kind of getting down on life a little bit. And again, putting weight on just silly things that really didn't matter at the end of the day. And I remember looking at myself, and I even mouthed the words or maybe said it under my breath, like, dude, you got to stop taking yourself so seriously. Why don't you laugh a little bit more than you do? And I did. I started to laugh. So anyway,
yeah, what I found with that is that I look in the mirror and I just immediately get down on myself for whatever I see in the mirror.
Yeah.
And to go along with that activity, we also have scriptures of what God sees in me.
That's right.
And that's the goal, to think about how God sees me. And can I see myself the way God sees me? That was powerful for me. Mm-hmm.
That's good. Yeah, so we
it's a
both
good
got
one.
something out of it. So so those are just a flavor of some of the things that we do during our Love How Deep marriage experience. And so you might be wondering, okay, well, tell me a little bit more about this. Well, so right now, as we are recording this podcast, the way we're doing it now is we are working with churches to bring this to churches. So what I would say to you, if you belong to a church, either as an employee, a pastor, staff member, or you're a member of a congregation, I would go to our show notes at lovehowdeep.com/14. And we've got a link to the Love How Deep marriage experience there. So click on that link, and there'll be some information on how to contact us. And we'd love to talk to you a little bit more about potentially bringing this to your church. And then I think
that would be awesome.
Yeah, as we move along, what you're going to end up seeing on that page will be locations and dates for when these conferences are being held. And if there's one close to you, attend it. And I probably speak for the churches here, but I would say even if you find one that's close to you and you don't belong to that church, reach out to the church. I'm sure they would more than welcome you in to come to the conference. So. And probably as we move along too, I mean, we've got dreams about doing it in other ways. Like I would love to rent out an entire B&B and hold a conference for a small amount of couples, but that's somewhere off in the future.
Yeah, who knows?
But
who knows where God is going to take this?
That's right. But we're just over the moon about it, and to see all of what God has done, and we want to invite you along with it. And I would say too, if you want to just directly email Heather and I, you can email me at Brian, BRIAN, at lovehowdeep.com. You can email Heather. It's Heather, HEATHER, at lovehowdeep.com, and just ask us about the conference, and we'd love to talk to you about it.
Right. And you may have already said this. I don't know did I zone out? Did I fall asleep or something?
You never do that. I'm the one that usually does that.
that one of the things that we really focus on in this Love How Deep marriage experience is we focus on your relationship with God first, because that is first and foremost. That is the foundation that is going to help set your marriage up for success, to you personally having a strong foundation in the Lord and letting him shine that flashlight into your soul to change you however he wants to change you, so that you can be a better spouse for your husband or wife, and then you can connect on a deeper level with each other. So that's kind of the big focus, the big push with Love How Deep, is understanding God's depth of love for us, and then understanding, applying that love to your marriage.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I don't think there's ever been a time where you and I have had a disconnection, a disagreement, and I've gone to the Lord after that's happened. He's never steered me in the wrong direction. Every time he's always steered me into this place where we've always worked it out, and we've always come back together, and we've always moved on together. So, and that's only been possible when I, instead of selfishly thinking about what I want, going to God and saying, all right, God, what would you have me do in this situation? So, so super important, just like you said. And I think that is about a wrap, right?
It. Yes. We just thank you all so much for listening. And, we just look forward to talking with you next time.